Hi everyone, and welcome to the tutorial for the Folger Shakespeare Library's online transcription service, Dromio. We are currently at the home page, transcribe.folger.edu, and I will be showing you from beginning to end how to start and finish your transcription. So first, you'll need to enter your full name with no space. I'm going to use John Smith just as an example. Hit submit, and this is the directory of collections you can transcribe from. And today we're going to be working from MROC, the Early Modern Recipe Collection. And just for this tutorial, we're going to look at Carleon VA 388 because it's the easiest to look at and the easiest to read. And here you have a list of all of the pages you can transcribe from this manuscript. So if you look on this column, you can see how many people have started the page and how many have finished it. The goal online is to get 3 people started and 3 people finished so that the final transcribers can synthesize everything that you've done and see where the problem areas are. So today we're going to look at page 200. I realize that there are 3 started and 3 complete, but just for the sake of tutorial, this is where we'll start. And this is the opening page that you'll see. This is your Dromio box, and it has all of your XML buttons and your little text box to start typing. And up here, you'll see the little hyperlink. You could click there to go to the Shakespeare Library's Luna catalog to view the image in a more HD version. You can zoom in much farther and it'll be a much clearer picture. So if you have trouble transcribing or trouble reading what's on the page, you can always check Luna to see if it opens up any clearer. So for today's tutorial, we're just going to take the last 2 sections on this page, just for the sake of time. So you can move your transcribing box anywhere you want. I'm going to put it down here so that we can read what we're looking at. And let's begin. So these sections that look like they're in red ink are actually headers or titles of recipes. So for the first one, we're going to type it in as we see it. And you're going to want to make sure that either your computer has the spell check off or you're checking as you go along to make sure that your computer hasn't corrected anything, because a lot of the words will not be spelled as you are used to spelling them, and instead of changing them to meet current conventions, we're just going to leave them as they are so that people who are looking for early modern spelling conventions can easily search the text. So when we've got the entire heading typed out, you want to highlight and then click this header button and it will tag it for you. And you can just move along to the rest of the transcription. And each new line on the page is going to get a new line in your text box. So you want to make sure that you don't leave things in one large paragraph. You want to go ahead and enter a new line. And I would recommend checking yourself anytime you see a word that's not spelled the same way, just to make sure that you haven't done it in your own mind or you haven't done it in the computer and had it changed. So this next word is aquavitae, but you can tell that instead of a V, they've used a U. So we're going to keep that convention in our transcription. So instead of typing it as you would want to and correcting it, you still want to go ahead and keep whatever conventions they have added in there. You also want to make sure that you capitalize whatever they have capitalized in the manuscript. So we're going to start a new line, and this is actually a width expansion, which there's a button on your Dromio box to look at. So we're going to type there as usual, and then instead of having to tag it yourself, you'll just click this width button, and you'll notice that the I, which is not part of the expansion in the manuscript, is italicized, and the TH, which is superscript, will be in red. And then you just continue on as usual. Now here you might think that this is a T that's been added in, but if you look closely you can tell that the Q has had its tail come down and kind of merge in with this H. So instead of was the, it's wash. And you just want to make sure that you're checking and making sure that you're watching for letters that bleed over into another line. Now here, instead of having a U in place for a V, you have a V in place for the U. So you want to go ahead and keep that in your transcription. And sometimes it will not give you the option to change the autocorrect, so you'll have to go back in and do it yourself. Now with the word dress, instead of a capital S, this is actually a double length S, which doesn't have any transcription conventions, so you're just going to type it as another lowercase s. Now that's the end of this recipe, so you're going to hit enter and type your next heading as usual and tag it and move along. Once again, keep checking your computer to make sure it doesn't correct you when you know you're right. Now this would be a case that you might want to look at the Luna image online. Wounds kind of goes into the spine of the book, so if you clicked on Luna you might be able to zoom in closer and make sure that you know exactly what you're typing. So now that we've reached the end of the heading, you're going to once again highlight and click the heading button, and sometimes you'll get that error message. So you want to go up here, and this will expand your transcription into XML so that you can see where all the tags have been put in. And you can see if you've got an extra tag where it shouldn't be, but I think the highlight may have just caught the tail end of this line break tag. So while it's in this expanded view, we're going to highlight it again and click the heading button, and there it goes. So if you're someone who wants to tag on your own instead of using the buttons, you can expand it into this XML view. But for the ease of this tutorial, we're going to keep it in HTML and view it as just a tagged page. So since we're on this next transcription, I'm going to move the box up so that we can see, because this is as far as the page will scroll down. So we're going to move right along. And here's another with expansion, but it doesn't have a word before it, so we're just going to go ahead and hit the button, and the expansion is put in for you. And while we're doing this, I'll go ahead and point out that you want to save your work as you go along. You can hit the save button as many times as you want, and it will keep your transcription up to date. You could always leave the page and come back to it. As long as you're still signed in, you will be able to see what you've done. The done button, however, is just for the very end. You want to make sure that you don't push it until you are finished and satisfied with your transcription and that it's the best you can make it. But save is something you can do as many times as you want. I would personally recommend turning off your spell check, autocorrect, whichever buttons you have. But for this transcription tutorial, I decided to leave it on so you could see what your computer might be doing and how often you have to go back and check yourself. All right, so these last two words on the page, if you look down here, on are going to be catchwords, which are words that will appear at the bottom of one page and the top of the very next page. It's sort of an anticipation of what the next page will begin saying. And what you're going to do is go ahead and hit enter and enter them as you would a new line. And then once you've done that, you're going to highlight and hit the catchword button so that it tags it correctly. And that way you can see which words are going to come up next. So if this was a page that had two pages in one image, give it like a left and a right page, what you would do now is hit enter and type the name of the next page. This manuscript has page 200, so the next page would be page 201. Some of them will have folio, and it'll say 4 recto or 5 verso. And you'll want to just keep the convention that the manuscript has up here. So you would type in the page number, highlight it, and hit this page break button so that they know that you have moved from one page of the image to the next page. But since this page does not have that, we're going to take it away and finish up this transcription tutorial. Thanks very much for watching. You're going to want to save your work and then hit done.